Hey, what's going on, guys? Rogue Gaming here, back to the video. Today's episode, we'll be taking a look at the Feral Druid in Season or Phase 4 of Season of Discovery. So, Feral Druid does have a really good toolkit in Phase 4, and Feral Druid is one of the specs that historically throughout Season of Discovery has had a lot of the pieces to the puzzle. Just Blizzard finally decided to bring everything together in Phase 4. Making it a very potent DPS specialization. So what this really means is that Feral Druids finally get all their talent points in Phase 4, allowing them to get Leader of the Pack, Furor, and Omen of Clarity all at once. So you no longer have to choose between different talent trees for personal DPS or raid-wide gains, and then you can finally use this sort of all-in-one specialization. So Feral Druid is going to be in a great spot in Phase 4, so if you're wanting to play one, this is a great time to do it. And overall, my tier rating for Feral Druid is going to be S tier. So reading over some of the pros and cons, we do have top tier single target damage. We also have very good cleave. We're also the only class that brings this Wind Fury buff to the Alliance side with the Wild Strikes rune. We also bring pretty good raid utility with the Leader of the Pack raid buff, increasing that critical strike of the raid. And then we can also pretty easily swap roles between DPS and tanking. So if that is a playstyle that you are after, you can do that pretty well. Now, some of the cons, it does require power shifting, which we will cover a little bit later in the guide. That some people do not like that. They don't like swapping out of forms and stuff. It's just extra buttons you do have to press. So this leads to a very fast-paced playstyle. A lot of people don't like that. And this does kind of go... this does kind of counteract the pro where we said we could swap between DPS and tank. You do lose some stuff if you do swap to tank. So, for example, you will lose Wild Strikes so that you can pick up Survival of the Fittest. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to stats. So the main stats that you're going to worry about first is hit chance. You want to get to a 9%. So 9% is going to be the cap for special attacks against Molten Core bosses that are going to be 3 levels above us. Up next, we're going to want to focus on strength. The reason we want to focus on strength is because we scale very well with attack power. And typically, if you focus on strength, you're going to be able to get more attack power than focusing on just attack power itself. And the reason for that is because gear typically has more strength on it than attack power as a raw stat. And with strength granting attack power at a 2-to-1 ratio, this means typically strength is going to be the best stat for us. Then down here, we also have agility. Agility is a good stat for us as well. It grants 1 attack power per agility, and it does grant a small amount of critical strike, dodge, and armor. Below that, we will focus on critical strike. So that's going to be 200% of our normal damage on swings. And then finally, intellect is okay to have. I mean, you're not going to have much of it. You're not going to focus on it really, to be honest, but it will give us more mana to power shift with. Okay, let's go ahead and take a quick look at our talents for Phase 4. You might notice my Chihuahua over here on the right-hand side. He is our ad blocker. There's a lot of ads that pop up on this website. So he is going to block all the stuff that we don't want to see. So we do appreciate that, Mr. Biscuits. Going on to our talents, though, there are 3 talents specifically that we are wanting to kind of focus on. And these are 3 talents that we haven't been able to get simultaneously before in the past. So that's going to be Omen of Clarity, Leader of the Pack, as well as Furor. So let's just read these 3 out really quick. So Furor gives you a 100% chance to gain 10 rage when you shapeshift into bear or dire bear, or 40 energy when you shapeshift into cat form. So this is where the core of power shifting is going to be coming from. Again, we will talk about that here shortly in the rotation. We also have Leader of the Pack here at the very bottom. So while in cat, bear, or dire form, the Leader of the Pack increases the range of melee critical strike chance on all party members within 45 yards by 3%. And then Omen of Clarity. Each of the Druid's melee attacks has a chance of causing the caster to enter a clear casting state. The clear casting state reduces the mana, rage, or energy cost of your next damage or healing or offensive ability by 100%. So these 3 in combination are what's going to be making Feral Druid so strong in this phase. We can maintain our energy very well between these 2. And then we also, of course, still bring our core utility. So in terms of utility, we got Leader of the Pack, we've got Mark of the Wild, we have Fairy Fire, we have Wild Strikes. We just bring so much to a raid composition. Going over some other core talents here, we do have Natural Weapons. That's going to increase our damage by 10% in all forms. We do also have Heart of the Wild. It's going to increase our strength by 20% while in cat form. Another one that's really nice is Blood Frenzy. So whenever we are using a combo point generator and it critical strikes, we will get another combo point from that. And a lot of this other stuff is just kind of padding the stats sort of deal. So increased critical strike with sharpened claws, more attack power and predatory strikes, and then reduce energy on our shred. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the runes now. So in the head rune, the first one we'll be running is Gore. So striking a target with lacerate, swipe, or maul has 15% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle for Bear and grant 10 rage. Then in cat form, striking a target with Mangle or Shred has a 50% chance to reset the cooldown on Tiger's Fury. So this is something that you probably want a weak aura or something for it to track, because that reset is going to be very important to your DPS, right? You want as much uptime on your cooldowns as you possibly can. So just whenever this procs, this is something that you do want to be aware of. We also, of course, have in our chest rune Wild Strikes. That's not changing. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power. In the wrist rune, we are running Elune's Fire. So for us specifically, what we're worried about is Shred, which is going to extend the duration of Rip by 2 seconds. Then in our hand rune, we are running Mangle. So this is a buff that you're going to have to keep up. That's just basically going to cause the target to take additional bleed damage. It will also cause the target to take additional damage from Shred as well. This will last for 1 minute. In the waist rune, we are going to be running Berserk, which is a nice little cooldown. Then we also have Berserk here, which is really nice. It's going to reduce the energy cost on all of our cat form abilities by 50%. It's going to last 15 seconds. So this is something that you do want to play around. Leg rune here, we have Savage Roar. This is something we're going to want to be keeping up. And it's based on a combo point system. The more points, the longer it lasts. Finishing move that increases physical damage done by 30% while in cat form. Our fit rune, we are running King of the Jungle. So it's basically going to be beefing up our Tiger's Fury. It's going to increase all the damage, all the physical damage we deal by a flat 15%. And it's going to instantly grant us 60 energy. It also takes it off the GCD, and it has its own 30-second cooldown. Then finally, in the cloak rune, we are running Improved Swipe here. And this is going to be really nice because your swipe is now going to generate combo points per target hit. So if you do have some, for example, say some priority targets in there, you could swipe, rip, swipe, rip, swipe, rip, and you can get rips applied to those few priority targets. Typically speaking though, just swipe spam is probably going to be higher DPS than applying individual rips, but it just depends on your given scenario. And then one thing I also didn't mention here is Improved Swipe allows us to even use swipe in cat form. So without this, you can't use swipe in cat form. Then in the ring rune, we're going to be using Nature Specialization. This is going to give us a chance to an increased chance to hit with spells like Fairy Fire. So we don't want that to miss, right? Each time we miss that, that's just going to put us further and further behind in our DPS rotation. Then finally, we have Feral Combat Specialization. Feral Combat Skill is increased by 5. All right, now let's go ahead and quickly go over some of the BiS gear here. You can kind of take a screenshot of this if you want, and you could just kind of, save it somewhere in your computer. But this is pretty much the agreed on best in slot gear for Feral Druid in Phase 4. So again, I'm not going to talk about absolutely everything here. This website is called 60 Upgrades, and it's spelt out the word 60, not the number 60. So SIXTY, upgrades.com. You can create your own character. You can import all this stuff on your own. And what's pretty cool is you can go in here and it will tell you where you get some of this gear from. Now, I would not recommend to go off this power rating here. I've found it to be inaccurate in the past. I would just go off a BiS gear list that's trusted, kind of by the community. I wouldn't necessarily go off this EP score because I don't think it's super accurate. Okay, so we're going for 2 sets as Feral Druid, the Feral Heart set as well as the Cenarian set. So let's look at the Feral Heart first. So the Feral Heart set is going to be 40 attack power, up to 23 increased damage from spells, and 44 increased healing from spells. Then on the 4th set, I'm just going to read the portion that is specific to us. 6% chance on dealing a melee auto attack to energize you for X amount of energy. Now, the other set that we're worried about is the Cenarian set. So on the 2 set of this, your Fairy Fire also increases the chance for all attacks to hit that target by 1% for 40 seconds. And then the 4th set, periodic damage from your Rake and Rip can now be critical strikes. So very, very strong. Now, our best weapon is going to be Hand of Ragnaros. That does give us strength, which is our most sought after stat. So chance on hit to hurl a fiery ball that causes X amount of damage. and then it will purge your target's soul, increasing fire and holy damage taken by up to 30, and then dealing an additional 75 damage over 10 seconds. It does have an AoE effect on it too, which is really nice. 20% chance to deal 25 fire damage to all nearby enemies when you're struck by a melee attack. And then the equip on this is insane, 358 attack power in cat form. Then in terms of our trinkets here, we're going to be going for the Accursed Chalice and then the wood-carved Moonstalker. So the on use of the Accursed Chalice is 80 strength, which is insane, and it's also going to give us that 1% crit strike. Then for the Moonstalker, it also has a really high on use for strength, which is 60, and then it will also give us a 4 weapon damage. Then the idol that we're going to be running is the Idol of Ferocity. Reduce the energy cost of Claw and Rake by 3. Okay, so we do have a lot going on here with this page, but we're going to try to break it out, kind of break it down, and just kind of take this one piece at a time. So first thing to note is the opener and the single target rotation is the exact same. The only difference is the Fairy Fire that you're applying. So for Mangle, right, we're going to maintain this debuff pretty much at all time on the boss. And then on yourself, you're going to be maintaining Savage Roar. So these two are going to be the top 2 priorities. Now, typically, once Savage Roar is popped, then that's when you're going to want to be going down here at the bottom using your cooldowns. So we got Tiger's Fury, we've got Catnip, and we got Berserk. So when you do get Savage Roar up, you're going to want to be popping cooldowns. So from there, you will go into Rake, into Shreds, and then into Rips as your finisher. Now for Rake specifically, you only want to reapply that after it falls off. You don't want to reapply this before it falls off. You're going to be getting the full value out of that Rake. Shred is going to be our combo point generator. So this is what we're going to be using to stack those combo points to dump into Rips. So again, the single target rotation is the exact same, just no Fairy Fire. So in the AoE rotation, I apologize, I did have Rake here earlier, but really what you want to do is you want to swipe into a Savage Roar, into a Berserk, into another swipe. So the swipe initially is going to give us combo points to put into Savage Roar, then we can pop cooldowns, and then we go into swipe spam. Again, we can use those combo points if we want to put out additional Rips. It just really depends on how many mobs there are, if there's like priority mobs or not. But typically, you know, if there's just a whole bunch of trash, you're going to be doing something like this. Then just kind of going back down to the cooldowns here. Obviously, we want to pop cooldowns after the initial Savage Roar, but like, for example, Tiger's Fury is on a 30-second cooldown, so you can actually pair this with like weapon enchant procs or trinket procs. So if you do have some sort of trinket that does proc often, it might be nice to just kind of wait for it to proc to pop your Tiger's Fury. Then here we also do have power shifting. If you are new to Feral Druid and you're not sure what power shifting is, I did promise we'd kind of talk about this later in the rotation. Basically, as Feral Druids, it's a way for us to regenerate energy by shifting in and out of our cat form. All right, so we have this talent here called Furor. Gives us a 100% chance to gain 10 rage when you shapeshift into Bear or Dire Bear, or 40 in energy when you shapeshift into cat form. So I think the best way to think about this is each time you shift in and out of cat form, you're always going to have at least 40 energy. So you don't want to do this above 40 energy because you're going to lose anything over 40. So if you're at 100 energy, you lose all that energy when you go back into cat form and you only retain 40. So you really only want to be doing this when you're at like 0 energy. So the energy that you do gain is not additive. It is just simply when you go into cat form, you have 40 energy. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you on the next one.